So let's start with the derby then. Honours even again. There were some goals in this one. Sadly, I kind of felt, Steve, 1-1 was probably a fair result. You were there today. What did you make of it all?
It was frustrating, I think. We had the better chances. Certainly in the first half. Adam Armstrong arguably should have had two. But in the end, kind of kept them at arm's length for the most part, really. A lot of sort of high balls and fast crosses coming into the box, but dealt with it pretty well for the most part. And it looked as if we'd kind of, once we got the lead, we had 20 minutes of basically just comfortable control, really. And then all of a sudden we like everything goes a little bit mental with a big melee kicked off by a late challenge by Flynn Downs. And that kind of kicked off a bit of craziness that I think was basically the reason why we haven't won this game. Pompey needed that to kind of get them going in the second half. And yeah, unfortunately, we duly obliged and couldn't quite keep our composure and keep our heads when just a little bit of calmness would have probably seen us see that game out, I think. Disappointing not to win it, but I think given the fears when we built up to this game in the last certainly before Wednesday's win, I think a lot of us were fearing the sort of lily-livered performance that we might get from this group of players. But credit where it's due, they all stood up and were counted, and some kind of real battling performances out there that got us at least a draw that was deserved. Arguably should have held on, but point to point, and we didn't lose, so that's ultimately the key aim of the game in these games, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, all said and done, Glenn, there are better managers and better teams that have been there and not managed to get a point at the game. So, it's could have been worse.
Yeah, definitely could have been worse. But I mean, I thought they were disappointing, to be honest. If you take the emotion out of it and just look at the game itself on the pitch with the players that were on there and stuff like that. I mean, Portsmouth don't have a lot about them, really. It's crosses into the box and set pieces. That's it. Yeah. There's nothing in open play, and they're going to come up against plenty of teams who defend that better than we did. But as Steve said, we defended it well in the main. I thought all four of the defenders and the goalkeeper were excellent in the first half and dealing with everything. And it's just unfortunate that we've not dealt with the one set piece that led to the goal. I think Ross Stewart could have got his head on it at the near post. That would have probably flicked it over everybody. But the issue for me comes because we don't get the near post clearance in, and then it kind of hits Harwood-Bellis and loops up, and the goalkeeper's nowhere. So it's a shame, because I thought the keeper was decent the first half. I want to like him. I like the way he steamed in to get involved in the incident with Flynn Downs, running 70 yards up the pitch to get involved in that. I'm not sure that incident really changed. It certainly didn't change the way Pompey were playing. They were they didn't really do anything different. I think more of our problems were caused by our attacking game kind of disappeared with the substitutions. And what happens when you don't carry an attacking threat. The opposition is just more emboldened to go forward a little bit, especially being a goal down as well. And I just think our game management, such as it were, in the last sort of 20 minutes was poor. I didn't think the avalanche of substitutions, it's like 4 subs in 4 minutes, basically. I just think that was a little bit too many all in one go, and that was that sort of like played a part in us not holding on and winning the game. But that said, overall, if you look at the whole sort of like 96 minutes, whatever it was, the draw is a fair result, and we can't have too many complaints. Can't have too many complaints about their goal either. I know it kind of hits his hand, but that's not getting given in the Championship. And even if it went to VAR in the Premier League, I don't think that gets disallowed either, because it's just too much going on to kind of give it. So, yeah, a little bit disappointed that we didn't hold on, but I don't think overall, we really deserve to.
Same old things as well, Alfie, wasn't it? With missing chances in the first half, Adam Armstrong with one, and then conceding from a corner. Bit frustration.
Yeah, I was frustrated. I was disappointed. Look, I echo a lot of the same thoughts as Steve and Glenn. We all feared that they would go there and be rolled over, or at least not, be up for the occasion. But that wasn't the case. They fought, they battled. You mentioned that Adam Armstrong chance, it's a really big chance. Finn Azaz, a great ball through to him, and
lovely little flick around the corner by Matsky to lead up to that as well.
Yeah, and I thought Matsky actually had a lot of energy. I thought that he started the game quite brightly. He did then fade off quite quickly. And to be fair, the end product never really came for him. But yeah, I mean, Adam Armstrong, he probably scores that chance more times than he misses it. But then he had a second one as well that was actually a very good save from the keeper. So he had a couple of chances to have one or two in the first half. And then Leo Senzo had been really quiet basically the entire game until he finally scored. But that moment of quality is the difference, isn't it? And then you think from there, I just felt they were going to go get over the line. And so to concede in the manner they did, another set piece, another ball into the 6-yard box, nobody just either clearing it or claiming it. It's sort of the same old problems. But I agree that I felt confident. I felt positive about the fact they battled and they fought. But maybe it's just an indication of where we are at the moment. This team isn't good enough to put teams away who are without their captain, without their best centre-back, without all of their wingers, playing a full-back at centre-back. That's where we are, right? We've done this with Millwall, we've done this with Norwich, we've done this with everybody else. We're just not quite good enough. So they battled, they're in there, credit to them for that, but I'm not sure we're going to go on this 7 or 8 game winning run that we need.
Any word on Leo Cienza's injury? Did you see him leave the game? Did he speak to anyone?
Yeah, he said, Tom the Record said that it shouldn't be a problem. He should be back for next weekend, fingers crossed. But he did mention that it is a groin one. So it's one of those that it could well come back in a couple of weeks. But we'll see.
Okay. Let's look at the starting lineup then, Steve. I mean, we did think he might bottle it and revert to 5 at the back, which he didn't. I guess the surprise was James Bree coming back in the side, I guess, because of his height, if Ross Stewart drops out.
Yeah, I think while obviously a player that's kind of been out on loan and sort of effectively out in the cold, really, from our perspective for so long, coming in and starting immediately is a bit of a surprise. But I think you look at the attributes that he provides and you compare him against Elias Yellett, who, I mean, Yellett we know is a neat and tidy footballer, but in that kind of atmosphere and that kind of game situation, I think having the strength and the dependability of someone like James Bree, I think that selection made 100% total sense. And I'd be surprised if you find anybody in that away end who thought it was a terrible idea. So yeah, the Bree selection, absolutely fine, and he was pretty good. Solid, dependable, did what you would expect him to do in those situations. Got forward when he could. So yeah, absolutely fine from my perspective. Matsky was probably the surprise one. I think Armstrong instead of Stewart was basically a coin toss depending on Stewart's fitness, I imagine. As it turned out, Armstrong's game kind of away from the penalty area I thought was very good today. He linked the play up really well, wasn't afraid to kind of mix it because we were going very direct as well as, I mean, not quite to the same extent that they were. Theirs were going above the clouds, whereas ours was sticking at least slightly below. But yeah, Armstrong was sort of buzzing and involved a lot. But Matsky was the surprise. Him coming in for Fellows. Was there any word that was injury related? Or
no selection. Tom the Record said that Karim Matsky is a fighter and that he's played in big crowds and big games in Japan and in Turkey.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, no argument. And in fairness, yeah, he was very good. Not afraid to mix it. Not afraid to try something. As with that little flick round the corner, as I mentioned earlier, that led to the chance. He looked very lively, and that's the sort of kind of performance you kind of think, well, why has this lad not been involved more often? Given that we've lacked a little bit of bite, a little bit of kind of just sort of directness and sort of killer instinct. Why have we kind of been effectively muddling along for the last kind of month and a half playing the same players in the same positions where clearly some of them are a bit tired, some of them have been out of form. And we've got this lad who, yeah, I mean, stature-wise, he's not big, but didn't seem to bother him. The situation didn't faze him. He was, I mean, we saw at Doncaster that he's surprisingly decent in the air. He's got a bit of a leap on him. So yeah, I mean, his selection kind of almost provides more questions than answers, really.
Because interesting. Up until about 4 weeks ago, Joe Aribo was getting inside ahead of him, and on the he was coming off the bench and playing the last sort of 20 minutes of games. It was that Millwall game that totally killed him, wasn't it? And it's only since then that Matsky's come in, and I totally agree with what you're saying, Steve. He's just adds another dimension, and you would anticipate him starting more, or certainly appearing off the bench a lot more than he has been.
One thing we've kind of seen from him so far is that kind of that little cameo at Norwich aside, where he scored the goal in the Carabao Cup. His good performances for us have come when he started. He's kind of struggled a little bit to make an impact when he's come off the bench, I think. Although obviously he's far from alone in that. I think when Wednesday against Sheffield United is probably the only game, certainly in recent memory, where we've made substitutions and they've had a positive impact. So yeah, maybe he's one of those where if the conditions are right, you start him, and then maybe you kind of leave him on the bench if he's not starting, because at the moment we've not yet seen him impact a game kind of when the game's already sort of well underway.
Were you surprised, Glenn, by how direct we were in the first half? Because I think Tom Derecker said this week that one of the criticisms of the first game was that we tried to kind of like lump it long a bit too often. And then we seemed to get caught up in a game and we weren't really winning any of the first headers for the first half.
No, well, we're not going to, because we've got Adam Armstrong up front. I mean, it's we were much more direct against Sheffield United, as you'd expect. That was the game where we were trying to put behind the bad form that we'd shown recently. We changed to a back four. We put Ross Stewart in the team, so we were always going to go long in that game. Today, it kind of struck me that we were going long to not give Pompey any encouragement, because basically when the ball was far away from our goal, they weren't going to do anything. It's not as if they were going to sort of cut through us. It annoyed me a few times in the second half when we started going backwards towards our goal. And on one occasion, we had the ball in their half, went back to our half, then ended up giving away a throw-in our sort of left back area. And you just think, why are you doing that? They're going to lob it into the box now and it's going to give them a chance. Yeah. So I think it was tactical because of the way Portsmouth are. Let's just keep the ball away from our goal. We don't want them to have a fast start. Remember what we said the last derby. They stopped us from having a sort of fast start by wasting time from the first minute. We kind of did it today by not letting them have the ball anywhere near our goal and not giving them encouragement. Portsmouth pressed pretty well, to be fair to them. So if you do try and play out from the back, they've got players all pushed onto you, and you have to avoid that. But the trouble was because of the selection we had up front as the number 9. Adam Armstrong really is going to win 1 in 10, isn't he? Or he's going to cause a header to go the wrong way, sort of 1 in 10 times. So, it was a little bit disappointing from an attacking point of view in the first half. And you already mentioned Cienza. I think he must have touched the ball about 5 times in the first half because the ball just wasn't sort of getting out to him. Most of the play seemed to be sort of down our right-hand side. Bree and Matsky were kind of getting involved. And if there was any football, it was going on that way. That side of the pitch. I don't really know. The centre of midfield, it didn't seem to quite work in the first half. We weren't sort of going through it at all. And as a result, sort of any balls out to the left-hand side weren't really anything other than as Steve said, just below the clouds. And that's never going to suit Armstrong and Cienza. So, I'd say partial success. I think we played with a kind of healthy respect of what Portsmouth are, but it's it would be nice to be able to rise above that and play some better football. But
yeah, well, I think they did. I think that was the aim. I don't agree that it was
Yeah.
tactical. I don't think they tried to lump it forward. I think they, when Tom the Record spoke after the game, he sort of said, yeah, we would like to get the ball down more. And when we did play, it was fine, but we'd like to have more spells like that. But you have to respect the emotion of the game and things like this. So I think for me, they felt they forced into it quite early on. I don't think it was a deliberate choice.
No,
but when they did that, Alfie, though, it kind of, we had little spells, didn't we, where it was nice to watch, and you kind of think, well, the class is going to show here, and then it just kind of like reverted back again. It was a really frustrating afternoon, and it just kept coming back to hitting it long, and they wanted to win those balls more.
Yeah, and I think that Glenn and Steve are spot on in terms of the fact that ultimately it's the safest thing to do in those moments. I don't begrudge that at all. And the keeper was clearly going long by design on the goal kicks every time. Taking their time with the goal kicks, taking their time with the throw-ins in the first sort of 10, 15 minutes. Very deliberate ploys to try and take the sting out of the crowd, which I suppose to an extent they managed. But yeah, I don't think you can line up with Matski, Adam Armstrong, Finn Azaz is a little bit taller, and Cienza, and say that you're trying to hit it long. I don't see how that can be a plan. I don't know if you're going to do that.
It kind of comes back to the point you were making on Thursday night, doesn't it? If it isn't going to be Ross Stewart, then it needs to be someone else of that ilk. So they need to get somebody else in to fit that mould, really. Yeah,
well, we've got 7 days left of the window, so there is still time to do it, but time is obviously quickly running out.
Number of centre forwards linked to us so far, pretty much zero, isn't it?
None.
Yeah, and apparently that Morgan Gilavogi was briefly linked as going to the MLS. I don't know if that's true. I read that somewhere.
Oh, no. He's a winger anyway.
Yeah, but he is 6'2" or whatever, so he's someone that you can aim at, I think is the point.
Yeah, so's Finn Azaz. There you go.
True. Although Finn Azaz is an interesting one, right? Finn Azaz seems to get a lot of stick from people, and I'm wondering if he's now the new Nathan Redmond or the new Jack Stevens or the new whatever, because people today said that he played poorly. I mean, I understand that he's not a blood and thunder type player, but I don't know how you can watch that game and say that Finn Azaz played poorly. The two biggest moments of the game both came from him. I mean, the touch for the goal is unbelievable, and then to get the pass around the defender and through to Leo Cienza. But as I mentioned earlier, the setup for Adam Armstrong in the first half as well. Like he's clearly a player who, as I said, isn't blood and thunder. He's not somebody who is probably doing 14 kilometers a game, but he's got a real bit of quality and composure. And someone made a funny point in my replies. I said that if we were playing walking football, Finn Azaz would put up Pele numbers, and he is sort of right. If he didn't have to move quickly and all the things weren't happening around him, he'd be unbelievable because the quality's there. So I like Finn Azaz as a player. I think that in this role, it's interesting.
How was the whole journey down then, Steve? Was everything all right? Getting there, getting back and stuff?
Apart from the stupidly early start, it was it was absolutely fine. I mean, absolute chaos, by the way, in Britannia Road at 8 o'clock when I got down there, because basically what had happened there were 3 kind of sections of buses, like 3 rows of 15-ish buses. I think we took 45 buses down there, and they were split into 3 groups of 15, and everybody had been emailed over the past 2-3 weeks, giving us info on which bus we were on and what time we needed to be there, what time we were leaving, and whereabouts those buses were going to be lined up. So you kind of think, right, okay, well, buses 1 to 15 are in the early section; they're leaving at 8:30. Buses 16 to 30 are in the second section; they're leaving at 9 o'clock, and buses 31 to 44 are leaving at 9:30. Okay, fine. We get to Britannia Road, and those first 2 sets of buses, not a single one in numerical order. So it's absolute chaos. So I'm on bus 17. So theoretically, that should be like the second one from the front on the second group. And you go there, and it's like bus 23. Okay, right. So go along. Okay, well, there's 27, 22, 16, 25. Oh, look, there's 17, but about halfway back.
Just... They got their engines on as well, where you're wandering in between. That's
no. I think most of them had switched off by then, because obviously they were sat there for a fair while. But yeah, it was chaotic, and not an awful lot different on the way back either. So when we got into the compound, they obviously they line those buses up. Everybody gets off and goes kind of round towards the entrance to the ground. But of course, because all the buses are dropping off in the same place, the ones that have just dropped off have got to kind of go down the other end, turn around and come back and line up in a sort of suitable fashion for getting out afterwards. And again, the numbers are all over the place, bit chaotic. But the like on the motorway, it was fairly extraordinary that they basically, I mean, they had obviously a load of vans and outriders and stuff like that with us on. It was a full escort from Britannia Road all the way into that compound, just around the back of Fratton Park. But like even getting on the motorway at Bursledon, they stopped the traffic on the eastbound carriageway, and basically let us have free rein onto the motorway. Once we were on there, they then let traffic kind of carry on and go past us and stuff. Fair few Pompey fans driving down from our neck of the woods who made themselves known, shall we say? I mean, there was one where I'm sure someone tried to lob something out of a moving car, but they did it from right in front of a outrider, which kind of feels like a very Pompey intelligence sort of thing to do, doesn't it? So I mean, obviously you'll be caught on camera.
Steve, do you know where the flashbang grenade came from? Was it from the North Stand or from the Saints fans, the Milton end?
Not sure. I mean, because I was kind of the other side of the goal in our end, but it certainly sounded like it was from our end.
Well, it landed in front of the Milton end, but for me, the way it landed looked like it must have come from the North.
In which case, I would imagine it probably came from their end. I mean, bearing in mind that we were all searched when we got onto the buses, and ID checked and all this sort of stuff. So, I mean, someone would have hidden it pretty well to have managed to get that onto the bus. What was interesting, they obviously gave us the match ticket, but there were no turnstiles. They had the exit gates open, and we just strolled straight in.
Right.
Because obviously everybody had been given their tickets on the bus. It was assumed that if you're walking through there, then obviously you must have a match ticket. But that made it kind of a little bit better in terms of organisation. But that concourse at the back of that stand is, even though they've extended it since we were last there, it's still nowhere near big enough for the number of people that's in that end. You could barely move out the back of that. So what people ended up doing was trying to kind of go into the stand and then walk all the way along and then come back out again to get to one of the other bars. A little bit chaotic, but whatever. It kind of worked in the end.
It does look like we'll get 2 more games next season against them, so maybe they get the coaches.
Well, frankly, I'm not convinced. From what I saw today, I mean, if that is them raising their game on their biggest game, the biggest home game of the season, then frankly they've got problems.
You say that, but they'd only lost one in the last 5 at home before this as well. So I think it was a an awful game. It was 2 poor teams battling out for bragging rights, but they clearly have a record of getting results at Fratton Park. I think that they've got a couple of games in hand as well. They've got points on the board. I'm pretty sure they'll be fine.
But one of those is Ipswich.
No, that's fair.
So yeah, I mean that was that game that was supposedly frozen off when Pompey had all the extra injuries.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have Murphy back soon as well, apparently, who obviously didn't play today, who was their talisman up top. So I think Pompey will be fine personally, as much as
I think they'll just about be okay, but they're going to have to do a lot more in the final third in open play to get enough points to be safe. It's going to go down if they can't attack any better than they did today in open play. They're going to be looking over their shoulder for the whole season.
Well, they're not going to play again. They're not going to play against many weaker defences away from home. That's for sure.
That's a good point.
And yet we stood up and it was reasonably comfortable, really.
Yeah.
Anything else on the game? The only other note I've got is that Ross Stewart had his shorts on back to front, which
I couldn't believe that.
What the hell?
Yeah. Maybe that's why he couldn't jump on the
unless
corner.
that kind of happened in that little melee where he had that little tangle.
So took his shorts on, put them back on
halfway.
No, I'm not sure that happened.
I just thought it was odd because I thought, oh, they put the sponsor's name on the front of the shorts now. Oh god, they put it anywhere. Then I was like, and the numbers on the back. Hang on a minute. It took a while for the penny to drop. Then I noticed that someone else had spotted it. But
have we mentioned the pitch invader in pod, or was that preamble?
No, we haven't mentioned the pitch invader yet. If you see the video, you've got to watch the still as well. They just kind of leave them to it now. Don't need to fizzle out when they run on.
Yeah, that must be policy. Rather than engage in this sort of Benny Hill style chase, where the only thing that is ever going to happen with that is the steward is going to slip over, and the guy running around on the pitch is going to look like a hero. Yeah. So all you do is you
not that guy.
Let them have at it. As long as they don't go near any players, let them have at it, and then they'll just knacker themselves out and get bored eventually. And that's basically what happened. Although it was quite funny, obviously, violence is never funny, children. But when after that guy was kind of being led away in front of us, kind of from about 10, 20 yards to my left, I just saw this crutch flying through the air, launched towards the fat lad, and can't have missed him by that much. I mean, you obviously just missed that on your video, Alfie.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I mean, that was absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah. Good shot.
Presumably that guy.
I thought he needed it.
Here we go.
Somebody limping out with just one crutch, getting back on the coach. Then maybe.
I think that. I'm not going to lie. I mean, obviously, I've looked forward to these two derby games massively. I thought today was definitely a better occasion than the first one. But overall, I have left this season feeling a little bit disappointed with what we got. Two poor teams is the truth, isn't it? It's two poor teams going up against each other, and I guess I just want a little bit more. But the atmosphere is very good today.
But they weren't great games even when we.
No, and that's probably right. I imagine it does probably drag either team down to the lowest sort of common denominator, if that makes sense. I imagine every time, but.
I don't know if you remember the game back in 2011 at Fratton Park. It was almost a carbon copy of this game that we had tonight, in that we took the lead.
Both teams basically had one good chance each and scored it.
And then we let in a scrappy, crappy header to equalise in that game as well. At the end of that season, Saints went up and Pompey went down. But I can't see that.
Not this time, I don't think.
Definitely can't see the first one of those happening. But the only other thing, sort of like what to talk about really, was the substitutions in the second half.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
I always kind of worry that Tonda just tries to be too bloody clever at times. I didn't understand. As I said, our attacking play kind of died for the last 20 minutes completely. Kasper Yander got pushed forward to number 10, where I don't think he's ever played in his life. He certainly, all the clips I saw him playing in German football, he didn't play there. He played deeper as a number 8 or number 6 sort of thing. So I don't understand that. I don't think he touched the ball hardly, once he got moved into that position, and it left Ross Stewart and Tom Fellows and Jay Robinson really, really struggling to get into the game. I just felt that last 20 minutes, having played Shay Charles there, I didn't think there was any, against Sheffield United, I didn't think there was any need to move Kasper Yander because I thought he was doing all right. Or
I think that,
or you take him off as a straight swap for Charles and leave Finn Azaz on. There just seem to be too many substitutions in too short a period of time. In a game that intense, to suddenly say to 4 players, there you go. There's all, I just think it was another inexperienced move by our kind of inexperienced manager. I think we could have done much better by drip feeding the substitution. I know one was enforced with Cienza, but I just feel like we could have drip fed the substitutions on a little bit rather than whacking on 4 in 4 minutes, which is basically what we did.
I think Tonda might have snookered himself a little bit because if you actually look at the starting 11, the way they lined up, obviously we look at it as a 4-2-3-1 with Finn as number 10 and Matsky on the right. But actually, when it was out of possession, it was a 4-3-3, and Matsky did come right in to make a midfield free, and obviously he had Azaz and whoever up front. And so I'm wondering, did he sort of confuse himself or leave himself a piece short by making a change to bring Fellows on, and then he needed someone else to come in and make that midfield free sort of hole again, and that's what Yander was doing. But I don't know, maybe I'm giving him an excuse there.
But it didn't work, did it? It was just kind of like took the sting out of it all. There were a few standout players, though. Let's do some nominations for Player of the Week. Steve?
Taylor Harwood-Bellis, I would say. I mean, him and Stevens were both very good, but I thought he was the the leader of that back four this afternoon. I thought. I mean, I'm unfortunate that the ball's kind of rebounded off his thigh, and conveniently for them for the equaliser. But I thought, in terms of what he was knowingly doing, he didn't put a foot wrong. And those are the sort of performances that we've been expecting to see all season, and frankly, we haven't. Or at least we've seen them far too infrequently. So yeah, I mean, given the timing and all the rumours that we've heard over the last 2 or 3 days of interest from Burnley, I mean, a timely, excellent performance, kind of in that respect, but also a timely reminder to a lot of Saints fans that he's. I mean, as Glenn said on Twitter this afternoon, I was
going to say Glenn's got on the wind up there, hasn't he?
He is our best centre back, and frankly, it's probably not close. But that's I think that's been the problem. That's why so many people have been so frustrated with him, that we know he's good, and he clearly knows he's good, and maybe that's the problem. That from a sort of attitude and application perspective, he's not always been sort of at the peak of his game this season. But that performance today was excellent, I thought.
No, I think he makes it very simple for Tondo and whoever now, that it has to be a back four, and it has to be Taylor Harwood-Bellis on the right, and it probably should be Jack Stephens with him when fit on the left as well. And then Wellington has made a real claim. I think he's a better defender than Manning, as we've all said for a long time. So I think that back four becomes very simple now. The only bit is it James Bree or Yellow? And I think it probably is James Bree. But
at the moment, that's one performance. Any other names you want to chuck in, Alfie, while you're on?
Well, we're in the player of the week, right? So obviously Leo Senza. Leo Senza largely anonymous in the first half today, but ultimately he's got the 2 goals in the 2 games. So you've got to put Leo Senza down.
Fair dues. Glenn, you haven't been winding people up on Twitter, have you, today?
No,
he's always doing like you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Doesn't seem like you.
I should just leave Twitter, to be honest. I'm just fed up with it. But,
so we'll stick Taylor Harwood-Bellis on the list. We'll put Leo Senza as well. Anybody else?
James Bree to come in for his first game and play like that. I mean, I don't think we mentioned it. He also put the crossover for the Adam Armstrong chance that the keeper made a good save. So,
and brilliant movement, by the way, to make the he sort of divulged command, I guess. He could have gone to a loose ball, but rather than doing that, he sort of made someone else come over and get the ball, and he waited in the space perfectly to then put the ball in. It was really good. I
think his recall is obviously part of a. We were talking a few weeks ago about the fact that our team is uniformly tiny outside the defence. I think it's a bit of a campaign. When you got people like Wellington coming in as well, he's decent in the air. You've got James Breeze decent in the air. We just look at Ross Stewart obviously getting involved after his injury again. We've just become a little. Shay Charles coming back. We've suddenly become a little bit more physical, and it may mean that we're more attritional in our style of play, but. Let's face it, we needed to be. We've got to find a way to play some decent football within that. Yeah. But hopefully that'll come. But I don't really see any other reason why James Bree would have been recalled. Bearing in mind we've got 2 other right backs. It's clearly that someone at the club, maybe Tondo, maybe someone else, is saying we need some more physicality in the team.
Well, I mean, frankly, from what we've seen of Roslev, he's crap. Unfortunately, and I thought it was at the time. I thought, oh, that's a really smart signing. But unfortunately, what he's shown has not been good enough.
And crucially, he's also not played for 3.5 months because he's been injured. So that's that.
And James Bree's been playing every week.
The best ability is availability.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like a timely point to mention the whole James Bree stuff, because obviously our favourite Welsh mining village inhabitant has been talking about James Bree this week.
He didn't want to come back, did he? Is that what he said?
Well, he said we didn't want James Bree to leave, and James Bree didn't want to leave, didn't want to go back. I imagine it's been sort of fairly lost in translation. I'm sure that James Bree wanted to stay at Charlton.
What was he speaking in Welsh?
Well, he's speaking bollocks, is he, like usual? Nathan Jones, James Bree loves Nathan Jones, so I'm sure that he wanted to stay at Charlton. I'm sure that he was happy to. But we spoke to James Bree today after the game, and he just sort of said, look, the only problem in his eyes was it felt like there was no communication between Saints and Charlton. So for him, it was like like I say, lost in translation. miscommunication, I can't think of a better word, but there wasn't the communication between the two clubs. It was sort of out of the blue for him, and so I imagine Nathan Jones was a little bit annoyed about that. But from the impression we got, he's happy.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
and if he's playing every week, then that's surely all you want as a player, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's been thrust into the biggest game of the season after a couple of days of training. And Tonda says that he thought long and hard about whether he played him on Wednesday, but he had literally trained twice, so he decided not to. But I thought from the impression that Tonda gave us last week before the whole game that he was intending on using James Bree. Like he spoke really highly about him, and I think it's quite clear that he will.
Yeah. Anything else on today before we move on?
Just one thing from the stats. I had a quick look at the stats from the game, and they make quite interesting reading if you like that sort of thing. But so XG from set plays, Pompey 1.37. Guess what ours was?
Naught.
You're correct.
Wow.
I'll put you out of your misery. Naught. So Pompey are notorious for conceding goals from set plays. So why? I know Shea Charles puts a decent corner over. He's 6'2". Why is he taking corners? It drove me mental at the start of the season, and it's driving me mental now. He's come back in now, played a couple of 20-minute cameos, and he's already taking corners. It just doesn't add up to me why we're doing that. So our XG from set plays was 0. Their XG from open play was 0.2. So
I'm surprised it's as high as that.
Frankly. Yeah, so was I when I was.
Well, they had a couple of big ones in the first half. I mean, to be fair, that one.
The side footer that went right across the goal was pretty close.
Yeah. But I mean, I suppose if you add up all the shots that they had that landed on the moon somewhere, because they did have like 5 or 6 pot shots from really, really silly distances and silly angles. That, like, I mean, there was one in the first half where the guy, I think it was Dazelle, hit from obviously depth perception from where we were is a little bit difficult, but looked like he was about 35-40 yards out, and he basically hit John Westwood at the back of the Fratton end. And then Marlon Pack had one that went closer to the corner flag in the second half.
Yeah, so, John Massinio talked about that Marlon Pack chance as we had an opportunity there. Really?
Not sure you did, really.
Well, on the stats train, that was the game in which Saints have had the fewest shots this season.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
One word on the referee as well, actually.
The referee, lenient, be one word.
He was. He was intriguing, wasn't he? I mean,
he let everything go.
Yeah, I mean, he basically refereed the occasion, what he thought the occasion should be like, rather than actually refereeing the game that was under his nose. It was.
I don't mind that with the home game as well, though.
The only argument I have against that is I had about 3 different bets on for cards. Yeah. Other than that, I thought that he refereed it exactly how I'd want him to referee it.
But I think the problem is, I think actually having that sort of game favours them.
That's true.
The way that they want to play, the way that Massinio has them set up, certainly the way that he had them time wasting against us in the game at St Mary's, he would quite happily have a game where they can kick the shit out of the more skillful players. Colby Bishop can swing his elbows wherever he likes, and everything just gets kind of waved away. Whereas, I mean, you had that
but football's the winner, Steve. That's the thing. Football is the winner, and that's what we're.
I mean, I'm sure for the neutral, it was an entertaining game. I mean, especially the that melee that caused by Flynn Down's wild late challenge. I mean, that was an extraordinary challenge. Wasn't
it's funny, wasn't
it? Like right in front of the mutants at the front of that north stand.
Oh, that video is just as funny as the pitch invader.
I mean, that angry
losing
guy.
it.
Yeah.
Call me back,
shit, didn't he?
What
I found extraordinary in the first half was that there were a couple of fans in that stand that were allowed to grab Leo Cienza and manhandle him, and that was apparently okay.
Yeah,
he's put a little Instagram post out, hasn't he? Saying he was spat on, he was pulled, and all this sort of stuff.
I'm not surprised. I mean, Wellington handed over a lighter to the linesman. They are. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not all of them, obviously, but the ones that seem to congregate around the
but it does seem to be most of them.
Barrier.
Well, we should say that weren't Saints fans chucking seats at the end of the game as well? So for the just a balance, I'm sure people were mentioning seats being tried.
Wouldn't surprise me. There was definitely a broken urinal.
Was there?
in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
I mean, they by my understanding is that Pompey was sent a bill for 35 grand after the game in September. I imagine ours maybe
Similar.
somewhere approaching that.